see, I got the VPs knocking on my door. Hey, young son, you gonna be somebody at this company. I'm like, yeah, appreciate that, right? And 3 months after that, they come knocking on all of our doors and say we were getting bought out by Macy's and all of our jobs were getting let go. And that happened more or less at 25. And I'm appreciative of that because what I realized, they actually offered me jobs in Atlanta, New York, and Dallas or whatever. But what was appreciative is I looked up and saw who was getting laid off. It was a bunch of older people, a bunch of people that kids was getting ready to graduate, kids is in college, all this kind of stuff, white, black, whatever. They didn't care. If you was older, you wasn't on the list. They say I'm discriminating, but that's how it was going down. And I said to myself, okay, this ain't right. Or I as a frankly, just not putting race in it, but look, I'm a 6'3" black man in corporate America. When I get to be 50-ish, they're gonna be knocking on my door. I could realize that then. And so I said to myself, what could I do to get some at least a side hustle? This is before side hustles was kind of popular, right? Like, you know, 20 years ago, I won't say 20, about 18 years ago, I was like, let me get a side hustle. And my good friend Jerome Love, that's the owner and founder of the Texas Black Expo, he actually put a book that we all probably read, Rich Dad Poor Dad. He put that in my hands, and I read that book, and I was like, okay, this makes sense, right? Just that whole idea of real estate. I took a job at JCPenney as a planner there. Took my wife up, well, my fiance at the time, up there, and I'm okay with saying this. You know, I was making money. She was moving for me to JCPenney, uplifting her life, and my credit was so bad I couldn't even get approved for an apartment. And as a guy, I just gave this woman a ring, and I'm asking her to come move to another city, and I can't even. She has to co-sign for me on this apartment, and so at that point, I was like, okay, I gotta get my life right. I thought I had some things right, but I had to get some things right. So, you know, throughout that year, got my credit right, started researching real estate, and we had made the decision that, like, I'm like, hey, you know, real estate ain't. JCPenney wasn't it. I got on, applied for to get on with Nike. Got on with Nike as a sales rep and a planner and a financial planner with them. And we were moving back to Houston. And I was like, look, I'm moving on a mission. I got me a new job and we're going to buy some real estate. And ironically enough, the date was 2008. Yeah. The date was 2008. And I went through the NACA program. Some of y'all probably know NACA program. Great program. It's long, pain in the butt, but went through NACA program. And I was like, hey, we're gonna buy us a ugly house. Ugly house turned into a distressed foreclosure. And I actually closed on my first property 1 month after Lehman Brothers crashed. Dang. So this was not the time to invest in real estate, right? Like, this is not whatever, but you know, the house was like, and you always remember your first deal, right? The house was listed for like 160. It was like 180. They had dropped to 165. I offered 135. They took it. NACA gives me 30 grand because it's in Maryland. It's old as dirt. It's 1960. Green shag carpet, just whatever. All my friends is like, they all going to Pearland and, you know, all this other. Fresno was hot back then and all that kind of stuff. And I'm buying this tore up property in Maryland that's old as dirt that hadn't been touched since 1960. But fast forward, we took the 30 grand, rehabbed it. I didn't know what I was doing. Contractor stealing money from me. All the bad stuff that happened on your first rehab happened to me, but we got it done. 6 months after that, I do my first cash out refi. Get out the NACA loan. These boys dropped 45 grand in my pocket because the new valuation was worth 240. Yeah. So,
I mean, that was kind of like the right time because
it was.
Houses, so they got to.
It was. So, you know, I bought it for 135, in for 165. New valuations worth 240. New loan around 200. I get 40 something grand in my pocket. I just told you my background. I ain't never seen that kind of money before in my life. I just had a regular corporate job paying 45, 60 grand a year. So I ain't never seen no 40 grand. I never seen 10 grand drop in no account at one time, right? So now at this point, we kind of knee deep into the the recession, the crash, and all that kind of stuff. And I had 40 grand in my pocket, and I said, well, this real estate thing kind of doing something a little bit.
Right.
I had read enough books about collecting rent as a landlord, and I saw a house in Hearn Clark listed for about 60 grand. I only had 44 in my pocket. I offered 40 cash because I'm showing cash at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
The bank take it. They took it. I only had 4 grand left. I go to Home Depot, 2 weeks of sweat equity. I got the house on the market for $950, and I rented in 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm off to the races. Like literally, like my loan, like I'm off to the races. I'm making $450 a month at a 25-year-old, 26-year-old, something like that. And I'm making $400 a month, and all my boys, they buying their cars, and I'm like, look, I got me a car note right now. Like my note was a car note essentially. It was like $290 or something crazy. And then I was making about $450 a month on that. So that's a long story of it. Fast forward now, we've got 50 doors. We got 3 apartment complexes, including a short-term rental boutique hotel called The Escape. So
you got that game from Rich Dad Poor Dad.
I mean, essentially, that really was the book that sold me. And I've read some other books along the way, did the whole Bigger Pockets, listened to all that kind of stuff. Deep dive, listen to all different type of people. But at the end of the day, I'm sold on buy and hold. Now I will do flips or whatever, but I'm a very specific buy and hold investor. I like rent. I love rent. And I'm a Burr strategy guy, even though people say Burr don't work right now. Burr has served me very, very well, over time, right? Like that's part of real estate. So they don't know that's, buy it ugly, renovate it, rent it, rehab it, talk to my Brandon up here, refinance it, and then just repeat the process. So that's my story in a nutshell, man.
That's dope.
Gotcha. Well, I want to kind of navigate it, and I made a lot of interesting points. I want to get into our subject, and that's a great foundation because you sound like you actually took what you learned and put it into action. And like really, when you got that first taste, you was hooked, and like so that's right. And so a lot of people don't get to that first taste. A lot of people seeing these people on Instagram, they're seeing the influencers, and they're seeing some of the schemers though too, pitching this lifestyle, and they want it, but the actions show otherwise. And we get that a lot on our end, like and that's kind of what I want to get into this week, and I want to get everybody involved, the whole panel involved. Is like, especially in our community, we want all these things. The information's out there. Like you said, the Rich Dad Poor Dad. I gave that book to my daughter at 16 years old. That's one of my favorite books, along with Be Obsessive, Be Average, Grant Cardone, 48 Laws of Power, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Power up here somewhere.
Right. So, the Dale Carnegie thing. Corey, welcome to welcome aboard. You right?
Hey, real quick, B. We got a question off my Facebook. Brandon said, I think this is on J. Are you heavily leveraged like Rich Dad Poor Dad? Yeah. Are you heavily leveraged like the Rich Dad Poor Dad author?
That's a fantastic question. I think when you talk about leverage, I can talk about leverage for a long time. That's one of my favorite words of real estate. But when you talk about leverage, I think that's a personal thing, to be honest with you. It's about temperament. I have properties that are paid off, and I've got properties that are leveraged at 80%. For me, I don't really feel comfortable with my total portfolio being above 60%, loan to value. For me, just from perspective, because I am a cash flow investor. But again, I also have a really good friend of mine. He leverages to the max, but he also is an accountant. You see what I'm saying? So he's very good with his numbers. I'm an economics guy, and I'm good with numbers, but he's better than me, and so his leverage tolerance is higher than mine. So for me, I always recommend people, leverage based on comfortability. If you're new to real estate, part of being successful in real estate is actually paying your bills on time, and that takes time to juggle, right? Because for me, it's not just loans. I got water bills, I got electric bills, I got bills on bills on bills. So, for me, the leverage game is I don't really recommend what people should do. I do say people should get comfortable, but over time, you do need to get comfortable with debt because debt is part of this conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Corey, go ahead, introduce yourself, and then we're gonna hop into you're right. You came in right as I'm about to drop the topic, and we're gonna hit this topic from a few different angles before we all said and done. But go ahead and introduce yourself, Corey.
Okay. Corey Smith, broker owner of Commodore Mortgage, here for your mortgage needs.
Gotcha.
Short
Keep it simple. I think I got you. The website is CommodoreMortgage.com.
There we go. Yes, sir.
Set up. So the topic, I don't have any clips. I got OJ Anaje Barnes. He's actually we were supposed to go out there before the tornado. We were supposed to go out there. I think what happened is that everything got all the power here, but this is his event that we were supposed to go to that Saturday with game day. So he's a real estate investor, landlord. He got over 50 doors. A lot of people are pitching his lifestyle right now, and what I'm seeing, especially in my community now, people is like a lot of people talk it. Everybody want it, but how do I get? Let's talk some real granular advice on how to get started, and let's bridge the gap between desires and action. Let's talk about how do you? All right, y'all. Everybody want this. Everybody want this lifestyle. Everybody want financial freedom. Everybody want to flex on the ground. All right, so what's stopping people from getting real estate? What's stopping people from stopping renting? And I know it's the mind frame and everything like that, but let's give them some practical and pragmatic stuff to like I like what OJ said. He read the books and he got started with his own, and then went from that and just got a little taste of the money and just kept on going. So how can we?
It's like Craig told Smokey, you better get up off your shoulders.
Right. Start doing something.
Go get this money.
But everybody say this. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody say this. Everybody want it.
You know what, Brandon? What's interesting about that? First of all, I love the topic because I think, especially for our people, it's important for us to understand value and what's really, I like to start the conversation just saying, what are people's desires? Like, what do you really want? Because at the end of the day, if you're just trying to chase becoming a billionaire, you're going to be down that rabbit hole forever. Meaning, like, how many cars can you really have? How many planes can you have? How many this lifestyle that's on the ground? For me, I actually kind of feel that's a little toxic for our culture, just a little bit. I like people like you started the question, what is your why? Like, what are you really trying to do? I got two kids. I got a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old. I'm trying to get through college without breaking the bank, right? I'm trying to live my life with stress-free, right? Like I'm not trying to wake up thinking about how I'm gonna pay a bill. Like everybody's why, but I think for us, we have to start to get more realistic with our whys. It can't be, I gotta have 2 planes or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
More realistic and not just, I want to be the best or whatever, but how are you going to get there?
Right, the methodology. But let's, I'll go ahead and start it off, kick it off. I like what OJ said about reading. It's still, I think, it's evolved since Chris Rock said this in the 90s that, books are like kryptonite to us. I think what's replaced books are memes and reels. So we don't read no more, but we read these comments. We read reels. So we don't. A lot of us don't read books. All we try to do these pamphlets that these influencers give out. All right, so we reading on how to do this, but all right, what's stopping you? Why are you renewing your lease? Why are you what's the delay when it comes down when the rubber meets the road? What's the delay? So I'll open that up to y'all. I would say one of the first things is let me give the advice. My thing is one of the first things besides educating yourself is go ahead and go ahead and dip your toe in the water. At least get ugly house. Get something. I think a lot of times we were talking about this earlier. Chris and I, CJ and I was talking about this earlier. We were dealing with first time home buyer. They want the Taj Mahal. First time, way too much house. Can't afford it. Way too much house.
Right,
but
9 times out of 10, too, they're not even gonna stay in that.
Right. So we got to get first thing out is mentality. Get out of the one and done. Get an ugly house, at least to get some cash. And then, instead of that rent, you look 2 years later, that's, that could be $50,000, $60,000 that's in your pocket. So that would be my first advice right there. Go ahead, just start. They say when the best was, if you want to swim, go ahead, just dive in, get into it. So I'll start with that, and I'll go ahead and open the mic up.
I think fear is one of the biggest things. Fear,
right?
Fear of failure, fear of if I go out there and, like you say, you wondering how you gonna pay your bills. If I go out there and it don't work out, then what? Jobs make us complacent because every 2 weeks or every week or however you getting that check. But with investing, it's not like that. So there's fear. Fear is a big monster.
Yeah, and one of my statements is, who the enemy of fear is? Education. Education is fear's number one enemy. They don't like each other, right? Fear feeds on your lack of knowledge. Fear feeds on your lack of education, right? Fear feeds on your lack of not knowing, right? And for me, the more we know, the less fear we're gonna have. But I agree 1,000%, man. It's fear that holds people back. But I like Brandon's point too. I kind of think, especially for our culture, we kind of overhype the process a little bit.
Right, facts.
Like we make it bigger than what it is. It's a big deal, 100%. But I think a lot of us, we comfortable with rent. We comfortable with paying somebody else's lifestyle, paying somebody else's mortgage. We comfortable with that. And because we're overhyping this process, well, I can't get my Taj Mahal. I can't get what I want. Well, I can't get this, whatever. You're okay with hopping around from rental to rental every couple years, but you're not okay with buying a house like that right there is always, it always bothers me a little bit.
Man, that rent's gonna go up every year.
All right. And Corey, I got you muted. I think you got an echo. So if you want,
Corey
in the swimming pool over there. Yeah, so when you want to talk, just unmute yourself. I got you muted. You got a little bit of feedback.
But now it's like jump off the porch. You got to get out here and get active.
Right.
Like you're trying to learn. You might not even make money on the first one if you just go partner with somebody to learn some game.
Right. Well, I mean, even for your first initial house, for your, I think this is my philosophy. I'll see if y'all agree. I think we trained to look at our mom and our grandmother. Our mom and our grandmother, they stayed in this particular house all their life, for the most part. And there was one and done. Times have changed, we used to have $7,000, $15,000 houses. Those are gone, So the average person stays in the house, lives in the house, 5 to 7 years? And most other nationalities came and mastered this. They'll get the whole family in one house and save up their money and then go ahead and flip that. And I don't understand the fear part. I know I'm kind of running two things together because I think somebody said this on Instagram the other day. You get into the problem, sell it. Sell it. So, rent's going to be due every month. It's like the mortgage is going to be due every month. You lose your job or something like that, sell it. So, but that's that scarcity mindset. Like, what are you afraid of? Either way, you're gonna have to have a roof over your head. So why not use that as your first investment? But and I think we so used to, we don't look at it as an investment. We look at it as one and done. This is gonna be my forever home.
Yep. And it's that thing like Barrett talking about fear. Like a lot of people go negative first. Like, what happens if, instead of like, I see this working and let's get to it.
Right.
Because it's uncharted territory for a lot of us. So to get out there and do it is very difficult.
And like you said, with looking at our mothers and grandmothers, a lot of us wasn't raised like that, so we don't know about investing because they did. I mean, my mother got her first house when I was getting ready to graduate from high school. She had been renting up until I was in high school, so you can't go. I couldn't go to her and say, "Hey, mom, how do you invest?" So,
you know, that's a good point. We don't have the other cultures. The investment mind frame is already baked in to the culture.
It's almost with other cultures. It's almost, we have to invest, and I think that's the issue where we have to get into two things. I think are pretty crucial. One, we have to understand that investing is a necessity, not a want or extra or whatever. That's number one. And two, we have to view our first homes as an investment. That's one of the biggest issues that I see when new investors come to me for coaching, whatever. Oh, I wanted my first investment property. You know, my first question back to them is, do you own your own home? Now I'm investing, I coach investors, but I tell people off the rip, if you don't own your own home, let's go focus on that first.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And what's crazy is people don't want to hear that. They be like, oh my God, I want a rental, whatever. No, but here, and I tell people real quick, if you're renting, you're paying someone's mortgage. That's just the way it works. Right. Like that, you're gonna 9 times out of 10, you're paying more than somebody's underlying mortgage. So if you buy correctly, see, that's the key. You know, I tell people all the time, look, if you're paying $2,000 in rent, don't be out here trying to get a $3,000 mortgage. Like that, that don't work, right? That don't work. Go ahead, get your first investment. And if y'all heard my story to begin with, I bought my personal house first 17 years ago. I still live in home. This same home bought 4 investment properties itself, right? And so I think a lot of us don't view our personal home as an asset. We look at it like a car or some other nonsense that we spend our money on, and we don't understand that our houses can be assets that can work for us and with us.
Right. Well, that's the. I'm gonna let Corey go ahead and jump in there, but that's the thing that I think is the most important as far as that actual boogeyman that's not really there, is that we have in our mind that we're stuck. We have in our mind that this is it, this is, and we have this. The last thing we have in our mind is that, all right, you've been working at this place for 10 years. Why do you figure all of a sudden, as soon as you get this house, you're gonna lose your job? Do you play football and say, all right, man, I know, but I'm gonna get this salary. But my first year, I'm probably gonna get hurt. So I really don't want to go hard. So I mean, what other person outlook? I mean, why do we have this outlook like we're not going to be stable? If your credit is good now to get a home and get an apartment, most likely you get a house.
And especially when the qualifications for renting now is just the same, pretty much. I'm saying, as purchase of the house.
Sure, it's harder to rent now than it is to buy.
Exactly. It's almost.
I'll tell you right now, I ain't letting anybody in my rentals at all. At all. And I think a lot of that is, that's a great point you brought up, just about just the credit, and people feel like they're gonna lose their job and all this kind of stuff. And because to me it goes back to, do you understand that this house is an asset, right? But because if you buy the property right up front with equity, things of that nature, and for me, I'm fine with buying an ugly home. You mentioned earlier, I mentioned buy that ugly home, fix that ugly home out, get that line of credit. Right. See, if you had a line of credit and then you lost your job, you actually can float for a while. Exactly. Right. Exactly. If you actually owned a house, keeping it real, if you owned a house and you lost your job, now we got trick. We some professionals on here. We know the answer to this, but I'm gonna get a trick question. Right. How quickly are you on the street if you owned versus you rent?
Exactly. Oh, way quicker when you rent.
I can get you out in 6 weeks, bro. I can evict you in 6 weeks.
And we said that.
How long does that foreclosure take, though?
Right. We said that a while back, and then stuff like this. It was the lights ain't even been back on 5 minutes on Saturday. No, it was Sunday. No. Excuse me, that Monday. Bam. I already got an email. Hey, y'all exempt. Y'all been declared in 90 days. They
all call me. They all call. All your mortgage companies call. Hey, you fine?
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, hold on. I got another question for you, Andre. Have you done cash outs in your current house more than once?
Yes, I've been able to leverage my home 4 times. I'm a little bit more exotic with it. I've extended the 30. I've gone down to 15 notes before. I've gone up and down based on where we're at in any given moment. But again, that's called equity, right? So that that's not for now. If you want to go be Susie Homemaker and go live in the burbs and go buy the brand new construction with no equity, now I'm just saying, right? If you go on that route, then that's that route. I bought into an established neighborhood. I bought the ugliest home on the block for the cheapest price on the block, and we put in the work. Like, look, I got me and my wife, we put in the work. So, but equity is real. So I'm a big fan of what they call forcing appreciation, right? You force that appreciation, get your equity out, and then you can play and you can do some moves.
Man, I got a question for you.
Right.
So when you were saying you put in sweat equity, did you already know how to do some of those things, or did you learn as you go?
I ain't had no daddy.
Okay.
That's
good for the people that's thinking they don't know how to do nothing.
100%. Look, my mom had 4 kids. Okay, my older brother had already went to college. I tell you what I could figure out. Right?
Yeah.
I could figure out, put some mini blinds up and put some paint on the wall. Okay, and halfway in the lines. That's what I knew. But keeping it real, I just tell people, and especially for any females out there, because the females they be like, oh, well, I don't know, and the contract is gonna screw me with it. Look, real simple. One, if you don't know nothing, you can always go to Home Depot. Pretty much everybody that works at Home Depot are specialists. They real specialists. They have licensed electricians up there, plumbers, etc., etc. Man, I found me a good old school handyman from the hood, and I just got in there with him. And I paid attention. So anybody, if you ever do any work on your house, I always tell people, watch the guy. Don't stand over them, but watch him work with them. Yep. And many of my contractors will tell you, I'm part of the team. I'm their runner. Even though I'm the boss, I'm their runner. Oh, I need this shower valve. I need this kit, whatever. I don't know what that is. And you know what I tell them? Send me a link to Home Depot.
Right. Yep. I'll go get it.
I'll go get it. And over time, you're gonna figure out, okay, well, this is this and this is that. And look, now that my wife is a former teacher, educator, and she's now in the business and she running some of our flips now. And female, whatever, like she ain't know none of this stuff either. But now I just send her the link, go get that, and show up. I tell people to show up on the job, and you don't be out here just thinking you prissy and trying to write checks. Get in there, haul. I'll haul some tile. I'll do what I didn't bought. I got now. Fast forward 17 years later, my garage is full with every tool known to man. Right. So I got every tool now. But that's, I mean, that it takes some time though, and I love. Again, just bringing it back to the topic on, this stuff, a lot of people, we want this instant gratification. Right. This is a long game. Real estate is not a get rich quick scheme. This ain't crypto. This ain't none of this other stuff. This ain't stocks and all this other kind of mess. This is a long game. It takes some time, but tell me another avenue, right, where you can put up $20,000 and own 100. And then someone else pay the whole thing off for you. Mm-hmm. I don't know of another avenue, right? If you go buy a $300,000 house and you get a renter that can cover that note, over time, sooner or later, you're going to have $300,000 towards your retirement.
Right. And you got somebody else funding your retirement.
Somebody else is funding it.
Right. And then we don't understand that we on the flip side, we're funding somebody else's retirement. And then we get mad at them because they live in the lifestyle that you saying that you want, but you're not doing anything about. But man, you hit something hard right before you went into that. Is that how did it's partly a question, like we want too much too early, and it's more about other people and stunting and living with the Joneses as opposed to being smart. Like you said, you bought the ugliest house in an established neighborhood,
My friends was clowning me, man. They was clowning me. I was 26. And look, I'm in the frat party. We go out, and my friends are clowning me. Real talk. I hope this resonates with somebody. My boys like, hey, man, what you doing over there? Well, let's go here. Let's go there. And I'm like, I'll be there. I'll be there in 30, 40 minutes. Why you can't be there now? Well, I gotta finish. I'm laying these tiles. I'm laying these floors. I'm painting something or whatever. Oh, man, what you doing that for? Okay. Like, and you mentioned something. If I saw the Joneses on the street, I'll stab him in the back. They're the worst for our community.
Hey, bro.
I don't know. This is but you know, just that whole idea, keeping up with the Joneses is literally the worst thing for our community, right? Like just for our people, because that's what we do. We want to stunt, we want to show off, we want to whatever. And I remember, you know, again, this ain't stunting, but this is just what it was. All my friends was buying the brand new stock houses in Fresno and all these places at the time. And I had this ugly ass, big ass house. But then after it was all said and done, I had the biggest house. I was the only one that had hardwood floors first. I was the only one that had granite first. And this is when, you know, it was hot, you know, it's 2008. People ain't had all that kind of fly stuff off the rip, right? And so, you know, I had that. And then everybody else like, oh, I'm gonna go get these floors too. And they dropping 15 grand on, they dropping all these big checks and trying to keep up. And I'm like, no, we're just doing this out the mud. And we have to understand the long game of it. Because at the end of the day, I tell you right now, I'm not paying for my kids' college fund. My tenants are. Real talk. That's 100%. I don't have a 529 plan. I don't need one. You know what I'm saying? Like my retirement, I got a decent job. My wife had quit. She gave up her pension after 15 years. Now she'll get something, but she ain't gonna get a whole pension. But it's all good because we got rental properties that like we were pretty much in that retirement zone. You know what I'm saying? Like we're moving into that in that world, and that's the main thing that, you know, I'm sure y'all preach this every time y'all go live. Real estate really ain't that complicated, y'all. This is it really not that complicated.
It is.
I know, but that's why I try to keep it simple, man.
Right.
Can you buy something for a price and you got a mortgage? And that's what the price is, the mortgage. And is somebody willing to pay more for it? Rent.
Right. Let me say this. The question I wanted to ask is, this is what I find out, and I'll probably open the can of worms by saying this, but you know, I always got to keep it real. How did you get the wife to buy on to, hey, let's go ahead and sacrifice?
Oh, let's talk about it.
Because that's most, you know, that's what most guys do. They follow, well, wifey want this, and they're gonna go pay for wifey, and the wifey gonna go. She's gonna go in.
Oh, we have to talk about it now. Okay, so look, I keep it real. I keep it 100. All right, so I married a Delta. Okay, now what we know about some of these Deltas, right? They all woman. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, my wife a Delta too, bro.
Yeah, hey, you know, they all woman. But I will also say, and again, we all 5 black men on the thing, so we're gonna keep it all 100. It's our leadership, right? Not enough of us want to be leaders in our household. We want women to submit. We want to quote unquote call ourselves kings. Then let's be that, right? Yeah. You know, come up with a plan. Understand you're gonna have to sell your woman on the plan. And look, let's keep it real. If you can't sell your woman on the plan, you can't sell on nothing, right? We have to be visionaries to our family. What we're trying to do, you know. So for me, a lot of that was around, you know, one. Having a vision, having a plan that's laid out and thoughtful, right? That I'm just not pulling this out my butt. I spent a year planning on our first real estate purchase. Right. I spent a year in Dallas planning on our purchase in Houston. So that's number one. 2, which gets to a different conversation, which affects the youth of today or the younger people today, a different generation. Man, y'all gotta look at who y'all trying to marry. Y'all gotta look at who y'all trying to date.
We talked about this before.
Like, look. Let's keep it real. If you ain't talking about, if this woman don't understand how to be a partner, if she don't understand how to be a team, if she don't understand how, hey, you know, it's time for me to fall back. And sometimes, and look, my wife will lead on certain stuff, and I'll lead on other stuff. But if you not, that's not the woman for you. So and that's why I see a lot of younger brothers these days, and our value structures, I think, and how we want to choose the type of women we want to get with, I think is a little off. You know what I'm saying? Just real talk. But you know, keeping it real, man, is sacrifice. If y'all heard through my conversation, I'm talking about present and past tense with my wife. So she's still the same woman I'm with. So it did take some sales. I got videos of her getting in the mud with me, real talk. And so
that's the more miraculous than anything. Is like, because that's the real sales skills. I gotta tip my hat, you know, because a lot of them ain't gonna want, like, you want me to stay where, you know, and so you gotta.
So my wife has earned she has earned her percentage of the wealth, right? Like, because you know we did live through as I mentioned earlier, you know, we started our rehab process. We were renting and our lease was up, and some of our money got stolen by our initial contractor. And so I had to literally finish off the project. We had to move into a construction zone. So she has lived through construction at least 2 or 3 times. You know, I've done a lot of crazy stuff. You know, my wife was a teacher. She could probably tell you many stories of her closing on property on the hood of her car outside of Lockhart Elementary. Like, that's a fact, right? Like she has definitely been a trooper, meaning like there's been several times where I've called her out the blue on her lunch break. Hey, babe, yeah, I just bought a house today, and you know, my boy, he gonna come, you know, my loan officer and them, the title guys, they gonna come close at your parking lot. So she's closed at several in the parking lots before. Right. So you know, that takes a different type of, and that's why I go back to, it's about how we choose the women that we rolling with. And because at the end of the day, if she ain't riding with you, then what you with her for?
Right. I got a comment. The sister said, Brandon said, the wrong woman will ruin you financially.
Facts.
Right.
We didn't see that, but it's been us or somebody else. We didn't see it. Right.
See it every day.
Let's kind of switch gears a little bit. Same token, we're gonna switch sides. But let's, first of all, before we do that, y'all get the comments coming in. We're gonna read them live on the air. So not only Facebook, I need LinkedIn, I need YouTube. We're live on Instagram as well. So go ahead and put the comments in the box. We'll read them live on the air. So you know, keep it coming. Let's switch gears a little bit. Same topic. Advice on the gap between desires and action. However, let's talk about people that's in the business. And we got what 80,000 now real estate agents just in Houston alone, and maybe 3,500 of them actually doing something.
49,000.
What 40? Yeah, we're about 49.
Getting double the numbers.
Well, 49,000, right? Agents, and they got what 3,500 actually putting the ball in the hoop. You know, so would that be safe to say? So,
what they said, like only half of the realtors did one deal or less last year.
Right. So a lot of them, if you look at their gram, I don't know if they're renting, they capping, because I look at the numbers, nah, it ain't all for real estate. So how do we give advice to these people that's, you know, again, trying to get in the game, and actually and especially in our community, I don't know, is it they want the results before they actually put in the actual work? What's the situation with this, and why not more of us performing, especially in our areas? If you look at the areas who's selling in our areas, we're not even the top salespeople in our areas. You know, so you know, just giving advice to people that's not only agents but real estate investors as well.
Yeah, I think you made a good comment when we're talking about we're not trying to, you know, downplay part-time agents, but in a market like this, being part-time, you're not really helping yourself in your business. I understand, you know, you may need that job, but if you're ever going to like leverage that and get out of that situation where you start working for yourself, eventually you gotta put more time in. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a problem. Like, I got in and I was full-time from the gate, but I could see it's a total mentality change when you go from working corporate to switching over to 1099. So you eat what you kill instead of you work and you do your job and you still get paid every other Friday.
Right.
So it ain't. Yeah, everybody ain't built for it.
Right. Corey,
we don't work, we don't eat, we don't grind, we don't shine.
Right. For real.
Barrett, Corey, y'all want to get in on that before before we open it up all the way?
Yeah, I think it comes down to that fear, and also a lot of them don't know or don't want to do what it takes to get to that level.
So what's the advice?
Like say some people want to get, they want to shine, but they don't want to go through the grind to get to it.
Right.
Sure, I say the advice is do like kids, like like students that want to learn different professions. Go shadow somebody. Right. Take some time and go actually see what it takes to do the job. Especially on the investment side. You think you're just gonna go in there and throw some paint on some walls. And little do you know it's gonna take a little more than that, player. So go get that. Like, experience is the best teacher. That's what they always say. Experience is the best teacher. So go get some experience and just go see what it's like. And Andre, you said you got a course or something, right? People can sign up for.
Yeah, for anybody that is on man, if you hit me up, DM me at any one of my accounts, Onaje Barnes, wherever, or Onaje 10K, I will actually, anybody that's live, I will get you a free course on wealth building. This is literally an hour-long course. It's completely free. It's my first course I ever did. It's really good. And again, it just gives you my whole philosophy on just wealth building. It ain't no get rich quick scheme, but it is my 13-point